The legal system can feel like an intricate labyrinth, specifically designed to keep survivors of domestic abuse and human trafficking trapped in a cycle of control. For decades, the heavy burden of proof, the terrifying fear of losing a job, and the long shadow of forced criminal records have been actively weaponized by abusers. When you are simply trying to survive the day, fighting a complex legal battle can feel entirely impossible. But the landscape is beginning to shift. Welcome back to the Voice It channel. Today, we are looking back at the past year to break down the massive legal changes, protections, and stories of survival that are rewriting the rules of the justice system. If you or someone you love is navigating this incredibly difficult journey, you need to know about these new tools. The system is finally starting to recognize what survivors have known all along. Let's start with a historic and long overdue federal victory. For years, human trafficking survivors have faced a devastating double bind. First, they are forced to commit crimes by their traffickers. Then, they are forced to carry those federal criminal records for the rest of their lives. A criminal record is a lingering chain. It means automatic denial of safe housing, rejection for student loans, and being locked out of meaningful employment. Where's it? But with the recent Trafficking Survivors Relief Act, that chain is breaking. This legislation provides the first true federal pathway for trafficking victims to clear their names. Survivors can now file motions to vacate convictions and expunge arrest records for nonviolent offenses. It requires proving those offenses were committed directly because they were being trafficked. This isn't just legal jargon. It is the ultimate second chance. It allows survivors to step out of the shadow of their abusers and reclaim their identities. It sends a powerful message from the justice system. The message is clear. Your past was not your fault. You were a victim. Those forced actions will no longer dictate the rest of your future. While federal laws are expanding protections in some areas, we are also seeing critical shifts in how existing laws are being enforced. This is particularly true for immigrant survivors. The Violence Against Women Act has long allowed abused spouses and children of permanent residents to self-petition for legal status. This allows them to apply without their abuser's knowledge. It is a lifeline for those whose abusers use deportation as a threat. However, late last year, immigration officials issued updated policy guidance due to a massive surge in applications. While protections remain fully intact, the scrutiny of evidence has become significantly stricter. Officials are now demanding much more definitive proof of the abuse. They are looking closely at timelines, examining medical records, and requiring strict proof that the survivor actually resided with the abuser. This highlights a growing reality across the entire legal system. Your story is powerful, but without ironclad, time-stamped evidence, the system is increasingly hesitant to act. For immigrant survivors, perfectly documenting their reality is no longer just helpful. It is the absolute barrier between them and safety. But what about day-to-day survival for those trying to plan an escape? One of the most effective and insidious tools of coercive control is financial abuse. How can someone leave a dangerous situation if taking a Tuesday off to go to family court means getting fired? Missing a week to move into a secure shelter shouldn't cost you your livelihood. States like California have finally recognized this impossible choice. Over the last year, we saw the rollout of sweeping new workplace leave laws that drastically expand who gets protected time off. Under these new frameworks, employers are now legally required to grant job-protected leave for a broad list of qualifying acts of violence. This means survivors cannot be retaliated against, demoted, or terminated for taking the necessary time away from work. Whether it is to secure a restraining order, physically relocate, or seek medical and psychological help, keeping your job secure is a critical step. It ensures that escaping abuse doesn't mean facing immediate poverty. As our lives have moved increasingly online and into connected devices, so has the nature of abuse. We aren't just talking about physical violence or verbal threats anymore. We are talking about tech-facilitated harassment, unauthorized location tracking through everyday items, and the weaponization of smart home devices. The law is notoriously slow to catch up with technology. For a long time, police simply didn't know how to classify an abuser tracking a car. But states have finally started closing the gap. Illinois is leading the charge by modernizing the legal definition of domestic harassment. These laws now explicitly cover electronic tracking without consent. They also cover malicious doxing and the creation of deepfakes designed to shame or control a partner. Furthermore, these legal updates are expanding a survivor's right to request remote hearings for protective orders. You no longer have to breathe the same air as your abuser in a physical courtroom. We are also seeing a massive structural overhaul in how law enforcement responds to the scene of a domestic dispute. For decades, the traditional police response was entirely incident-based. Officers would show up and ask what happened in the last 10 minutes. They often failed to capture the invisible dynamics of control. Now, states like New York are implementing mandatory, standardized lethality assessments. When officers arrive, they don't just ask about the immediate argument. They are required to ask evidence-based questions to identify high-risk situations immediately. Questions like, does your partner own a firearm? Or, have they ever restricted your breathing? Studies have shown that implementing these specific standardized assessments on the scene can reduce female homicides by nearly 40%. It takes the guesswork out of the hands of individual officers and forces a trauma-informed response. Alongside this, states like New Jersey are advancing laws that look at domestic violence history. These laws mandate the courts to view it as a mitigating factor in criminal sentencing. The justice system is finally waking up to the reality that trauma alters choices. All of these incredible changes have one major thing in common. They all hinge on the absolute necessity of evidence. The law is creating wider doors for survivors to walk through, but you still need the right key to unlock them. Courts and law enforcement are demanding clearer documentation. They require highly detailed and strictly time-stamped evidence to grant these new protections. Gathering that evidence while you are actively in survival mode can feel entirely overwhelming. Relying on your memory isn't enough. Doing it safely without tipping off an abuser is often incredibly dangerous. That is exactly why voiceitnow.org exists. We built this platform because survivors need a secure, private, and specialized way to document their experiences without leaving a paper trail. Standard notes apps or photo galleries simply aren't secure enough, and they often lack the critical metadata courts want to see. Voice It Now solves this problem entirely. The app allows you to safely log incidents and store crucial details. You can secure the exact kind of chronological timeline evidence that these new laws and policies require. It is a tool designed to protect your truth and give you your voice back, completely on your terms, for when you are ready to take that next step. The laws are changing, the protections are growing. The system is slowly learning how to listen. But most importantly, you do not have to navigate this alone. Visit voiceitnow.org today to learn more about how to safely document your story. Connect with the help you deserve. Stay safe, keep speaking your truth, and I'll see you soon.